Welcome to the Nano Blitz.
Hey everybody, this is Tim, joined as always by
Me. Oh, Nate. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, they can't see you, Nate.
Oh, okay.
Not that they would recognize you.
Yeah.
They might. You're semi-famous.
Not really.
No, I guess not at all.
I would say Tim's more famous than I am.
Ryan Tannehill would recognize you.
Or not.
Well, but hey, we're not here to talk about Nate's recognizability among A-list celebrities.
Like Tom Cruise.
Like Tom Cruise or James Vanderbeek. This is the Nano Blitz podcast. We're going to be talking about Madden. We're going to be talking about Madden 21 primarily. Talk a little bit about Madden 20. We're going to be talking about the NFL draft. But before we get started in any of that, we did want to take a moment to recognize what's going on in this country right now. And I don't really know what to say other than we believe here at the Nano Blitz that Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our hope and desire for this country is that it will show in the actions of everyone involved and the authorities and the government and us day to day. So outside of that, I don't feel like there's a whole lot else we can offer from a standpoint of a Madden podcast.
Yeah.
But other than that, hey, we're with you and we believe this matters.
Yeah. And I was personally raised as, the person is not skin deep or whatnot, always look into that person's heart, respect everybody's heart. I think the best way that I could kind of say that, and I listen to some other podcasts which are much, much more famous than ours. I listen to Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah because I respect them for their viewpoints and their careers and all that kind of stuff and the dynamic that they have. And obviously Bucky being, black and Daniel Jeremiah being white, that kind of thing. But the best way that they actually kind of summed it up was this past Monday's, I think, podcast, when I was listening to it on a walk, is be a good teammate. Whenever they were in the scouting community, they would scout people as a good teammate, that kind of thing. Well, a team is going to be of people from all kinds of walks of life. Mm-hmm. Black, brown, Asian, whatever, right? Yeah. Respect everybody. And that's how I was grown up, is to try to respect everybody. And, I hope that we can all get to a equilibrium within this, so that everybody has the same, respect and the same value in life and all that kind of stuff. And there's not enough words to explain it.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of people out there that are ready for life to get back to normal. But I think the point of this is that we don't want it to go back to normal. We want it to have a new normal of respect and accountability.
There's a change that needs to be done. Normal is not acceptable.
Right. So, yeah. So those are our thoughts on it. We thought it was important because this is a historic week, and, we didn't want to ignore what's going on around us, because there are a lot of things that are much bigger than video games, especially when you hear our opinions on how Madden is anyway. That we don't think very highly of it sometimes. There are just so many more important things out there than just football or just football video games or what have you. And we're glad that regardless of the community that we can support things and be a part of that. So, So that is going to be our.
That's our little tiny, everybody knows that this is something that we could spend podcasts upon podcasts talking about, right?
Right.
But we wanted to just kind of have a little snippet of saying, hey, we care.
Yeah.
That
Right.
You know, that's just who we are.
Yep. So yeah, and so with that, I think we're gonna go ahead and jump into some of our thoughts on some other things, and it's an awkward transition, I know, but
there's not really anything that you could transition with on that.
Yeah, that's life. Serious
Yeah.
things in life don't have easy transitions, and you know, so instead of continuing to talk around this, we're going to move into the NFL
draft.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the Madden 20, or not the Madden 20, the NFL 20 draft, which was a lot of fun to watch.
It was different. It was so different. I liked some of the aspects of it. It's weird. Going through a pandemic still, that kind of thing. I thought some teams did really good. I question mark some other teams.
Sure.
I love that Denver's saying, "Yep, we got our quarterback. Let's go out and load him up." And that's just me as a Drew Lock. Obviously, if you've been listening to this since probably episode 1, whenever he was a sophomore in college, I was talking about him, that kind of thing, just and some of the ties that he has to the area where I grew up in and knowing family members, that kind of thing.
That's
I don't have to say that.
That's kind of the homer in the show, but at the same time, I like seeing that on a national perspective. Like, a lot of people believe in Drew Lock. The Broncos believe in Drew Lock.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity for him to really have some good success here at a great organization.
And I hope that they're not overhyping him. That's a really tough thing. Is Drew is. It's going to still take him time. He's got a very, very small sample size. He'll already be working, and this is a fun fact to go back to, is his offensive coordinators that he's had in his college and now NFL career, he only had one offensive coordinator for 2 years.
Right. It's been a different one every year.
Josh Heupel was the only one that he had for 2 years.
Yeah.
And we saw the year 1 to year 2, which was sophomore to junior. Junior, he at the time had a SEC record of 44 touchdown passes, which Joe Burrow kind of blew out the water, but Joe Burrow does Joe Burrow.
And he's also playing for a powerhouse team in LSU. Yeah. Where you look at those players that went in the draft.
He's good.
Oh, Joe Burrow. Yeah, I don't want to take anything from Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is excellent, but then he's also throwing to some fantastic weapons. He's got
Chase. Yeah. And Jefferson, and then the other guy. I bumped my mic. It's LSU. They can recruit 4 and 5 star players at will, or they're 3-star players like Jefferson was. I think he was like a 2.5, 3-star.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that team. I mean, you look at how many of them were drafted. How many were drafted first round? Yeah. So not saying Joe Burrow had it easy, because he didn't. He's still playing in the SEC. He still had to beat Alabama. Had to beat Clemson. Yeah. Had to get through those playoffs. I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow and what he did.
I like what he did. Obviously not. He doesn't have the big arm. That could be overrated sometimes, because you got to know what to do with that arm. And
smart arm, I think. I'll take over a big arm.
He was really smart. Now, the system that he played in had a lot of bunch formation, stuff like that. I mean, you could do all the film study. I do way too much of it. Even though I'm not a scout, by the way. But it's something I enjoy.
It's a fun hobby.
And bunch formation. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in Cincinnati. Speaking of Cincinnati and draft recaps, they stuck with where they were at the top of each round, and they drafted some good linebackers. A lot of people overlook stuff like that, but whenever you can do that, and hopefully building some long-term continuity. Yeah. Within that. Obviously I mentioned Denver. I thought that they did good. I actually like a little bit of Arizona's. Unfortunately, I picked them this year in Madden and not next year. Although, ironically, I did draft Isaiah Simmons just like they did.
Yes, you did.
Which was weird. Uh, some questionable drafts, and I'm leaving out a lot of stuff here. Green Bay, your window is now, and I get wanting to have so here's the thing, and I was actually speaking with maybe about an hour and a half ago with Tim, and they're like, why did they get Jordan Love? It's because they missed out on Drew Lock last year. They actually had him targeted, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, he had several private workouts with them, the kind of thing. So I knew that he was almost going to fall to them in the second round before Denver did what they did, but Denver had zeroed in on Drew Lock as well. So I was there at a game whenever John Elway was there, for instance. They've done their homework, and they didn't want to miss out on their guy, but they don't get any kind of wide receiver. I get them trying to go to a more of a tight end oriented system, but
it was interesting drafting a halfback. I think. And again, they had a pretty good running back, but they've also had a committee at running back for a while.
Yeah.
So I get it, and AJ Dillon's not going to be their starting running back, but
he's not a second round. Oh, man.
But yeah, getting him in the second round, losing draft picks in order to move up to get Jordan Love, which I still don't see. I haven't seen any kind of real case for the fact that he wasn't going to be there for them later on in that draft.
They didn't have to move up. I think they got scared.
Yeah, they got scared, and they made a move that they probably shouldn't have. They probably could have still got him where they were.
Yeah.
And maybe kept a draft pick to get a need.
Yeah.
So, they're, the way they drafted just didn't make much sense to me. I'm not a scout. I'm not a GM. It just didn't seem like they were... It didn't seem like they were adding to their immediate weapons. They were getting guys that might be good a few years down the road.
They need a little bit of that, but not necessarily to the extent.
You do, but I almost wonder if that's what they are already. If that's what they already have enough of players that will be really good down the road. When what they need is a starting middle linebacker, what they need...
Yeah, they really need that.
Yeah, what they need is a defense that can stop San Francisco's run game. What they need is a consistent receiving target.
Opposite of Adams,
Right.
And there were people in the second round that they could still get that were going to make an impact at wide receiver, for instance.
Right.
But I think what that really shows is that they didn't value, I guess, somebody... And every team's different on how they value stuff, but I guess they want to ground and pound and use tight ends.
True. I still don't get it though. I think from a perspective of having Aaron Rodgers locked up for several more years, the idea of spending a first round draft pick on Jordan Love, who I'm of the notion he's not a first round talent.
I knew that he was going to get drafted in the first round, and don't get me wrong, I actually like Jordan Love. I like him better than Herbert.
Sure.
But there's still just something there.
It's just
yeah.
There are teams that it would have made sense for them to draft him in the first round.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense to me that Green Bay would A, draft him in the first round, B, trade up to draft him in the first round. And I think it goes back to what you said. They psyched themselves out, said we missed our guy last year, and we're going to move up and get our guy this year. And I understand the importance of having a backup quarterback, too. I get that. That's not lost to me. We see quarterbacks go down all the time.
But you're not playing them until year 3.
Oh, no.
And that's the thing. And I get it. It's ironic that my first little mock of, some write-ups that I did on our website, I actually had Jordan Love getting picked by Green Bay.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I was like, man, I know that they're trying to look at the future, but I didn't think that they would move up for him. But again, that's Garrett thing. I had him in my actual full first round going to the Saints, but as we know, the Saints kind of do their own thing. And they've got a really good backup plan to that. They got Jameis Winston as their backup, and they still have Taysom Hill, which is not the future of the NFL at 30 years old.
No, he is not.
He's a gadget guy.
Yeah, he is not a Lamar Jackson like that one guy said. That's just so stupid. Taysom Hill is not the future.
He's not. He's too old for that, and a lot of people forget his injury history in
he is
college.
a star developer. I remember New Orleans posted that video when Madden 20 came out of them throwing the game up in the air and then him knocking it out of the air with a football.
Yeah.
And
he's not that accurate.
The Mutt Guru, who no longer works for EA Sports, had posted that video. I remember responding to that with, I guess he didn't see he was a star developer, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think every team kind of just did their own thing. Baltimore stacked up.
Yeah.
At some positional needs. They want to be fast on defense and offense.
Yeah. I really enjoyed watching Pittsburgh Steelers fans react to the Baltimore draft because they were all like, "Oh man, they got that guy. Oh man, they got that guy." Yeah. Oh man, so that was kind of entertaining, not having a dog in that fight.
It'll be interesting. One move that I thought was great. And it's weird, but like, how the heck does Tristan Wirfs fall to the Buccaneers? Now, they moved up one spot. You gave up a fourth rounder to do that, and I understand, but I mean, come on, man.
He's a good.
He's
gonna be a good player.
He's gonna be good. And the thing about Tristan Wirfs is he. In the scouting community, this is kind of said is some people see him as an inside guy. At that pick, who cares?
Right.
Like, he can be a Pro Bowler at guard, even though you play him at tackle. Like, who cares? Like, the value of that. And then what the Buccaneers have just done, like, they're ready to roll.
Yeah. They're all in on Tom Brady getting them a Super Bowl this year.
They're all in, which Green Bay's not. Green Bay was a 13-3 team. I'm sorry I keep on bringing that up, but the window's now.
Right. The window's now.
And you have one team that's doing one thing, and you have another team that's doing another thing. I mean, they got Antoine Winfield Jr. too, who's so I watched his father play in college. I was lucky enough. Yes, I'm old. To get to see that. And then also I was in Minnesota whenever he was playing with Minnesota too, as a pro. It's kind of cool to kind of see that. But basically I think there's definitely some winners and losers.
Yeah.
There's some aggressive, but for the most part, I think overall in the draft, people were sitting. In the first round, people were sitting, and is very, very different. You had a fourth round corner going in the first round to the Raiders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very Raiders pick. So was the wide receiver they took.
I get he's not fast. I get he matches a lot of their scheme. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to fault the pick. I'm going to fault where it was.
Sure.
And Mayock has yet to use the draft board. Like, he hasn't moved back. He hasn't moved forward. Like,
yeah, he just takes.
And that's not me just saying that. That's some of the other people. Your Bucky Brooks and your Daniel Jeremiah's and some other people. Matt Miller and Mello and Connor and all those guys on that. But overall, I thought it was an interesting thing. I definitely don't want that as the overall experience ever again. This pandemic has kind of had its ups and downs for everybody, I think. But everybody was tuned in. I was tuned in.
Yeah, I was watching it.
I was enjoying it. I watched all 3 days of it.
Yeah, I tracked it on the third day. I didn't watch the whole thing on the
It's
third
my
day,
favorite day.
but I watched some of it. Well, I also had other things going on that day that I was doing, but
Details.
yeah, details. But I think when I look at the draft too, I think the team that I thought won the draft, and I saw some analysts kind of brought this point out, was Minnesota. And part of me thinks, well, they had so many draft picks. How are they going to not do well? But I think when you look at the players they got, at the picks that they got them, like some of these names are some of the names of the guys that I really enjoyed making and learning about as I was trying to, fine tune our draft classes that we put out. Mm-hmm. Justin Jefferson at wide receiver.
Who, by the way, like him and Jerry Jeudy, like there's very, very little difference between those two.
Yeah.
And you get them at what, 22, I think, and they move back,
right?
And the Eagles, whatever, they're thinking the Eagles.
And then defensively, Jeff Gladney, Cam Dantzler, and Harrison Hand at corner. Not to mention Josh Metellus at safety. Yeah. These are all guys that could have a quality future in the NFL. Ezra Cleveland at tackle.
Yep.
Troy Dye is one of my favorite linebackers. They got him. I'm really big on Kenny Willekes. I think that guy has a lot to prove.
I actually noticed that you got him in the league, and I was like, he watched that video where he was doing backflips and stuff.
That's exactly what it was. I watched that video.
But I mean, he's saying not athletic.
Right.
I mean, he's a grinder type player, and I like that.
Yeah. That high motor, got a chip on the shoulder. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to make something happen. So you look at adding these kind of guys to the team. You just look up and down. They just walked away with some really good players to add to what they already have. And I think, you look at what they did compared to what Green Bay did in the NFC North.
Yeah.
They're coming for you guys.
They are.
I don't know. I don't think they necessarily surpassed Green Bay because of this draft here, but they already had some talented players on this team. We saw them in the playoffs 2 years in a row.
And I don't think it's this year. I think it's 3 years down.
2-3 years down the road with or without that quarterback.
Without that quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah. Come on.
So then who, do they sign somebody? Do they draft somebody in the future? Or is it Nate Stanley who they took in this? I don't think it's Nate Stanley.
It's not. Nate Stanley is not a starter. So Iowa has really decent backup quarterbacks in the NFL. They're not a quarterback so to speak, right? They run a pro-style system, so you see that they are what they are. They don't overstep their bounds or anything like that. He's not a starter unless he has a Tom Brady turnaround, right? And that can happen with anybody. The chance is out there, right? Sure. But you got to be in the right system to do that, right? Coaching staff.
Right, and you're fighting the odds on that.
It'll be interesting to see, what they do with Kubiak now. Actually calling offensive plays and stuff like that. They had a Kubiak style, but Kubiak is all play action.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to kind of see. Kirk Cousins does pretty decent in play action, so I'm not dogging Kirk Cousins, but he's not $33 million worth, but they needed a patch. I still liked Teddy Bridgewater. I'm a big Teddy fan. Always have been. Always will be. But I understand why they did that, because their window. But now the window is kind of like Green Bay. The window is kind of closing, right?
Sure.
So if you don't do that in 2 years,
right.
Yeah, and everybody's coming after you. AFC West is everybody but the Chargers decided, hey, we're just loading up on offense.
Right.
Because we gotta keep up with Kansas City.
Yeah. No, I like the Chargers going after Murray.
He's another sideline to sideline guy. Again, I don't agree with their signal caller choice, but I understand. They're not going to be drafting that high again, probably.
Right.
Unless they are forced to play Herbert this year. So yeah, I get it. But that's enough on that. I can go on and on about the draft.
You did mention Teddy Bridgewater, who is in Carolina.
Yeah.
He needs to be watching out for PJ Walker, who came from the XFL.
I think he's not watching out for PJ Walker, but
I'm just saying.
I think their plans, like, so if this would be the perfect scenario, and this is kind of going into future Madden draft classes here, but the guy to watch out for in Carolina, if they're able to draft, is currently Sam Howell.
Okay, yeah.
You
sent me his highlight tape.
And that was just I sent a little video that somebody did on YouTube. Actually, it was the ACC Network, I think. Of all 38 touchdown passes that he threw as a true freshman.
Wow.
And he ran for 2 more as well. But
they gave Clemson a run for their money, didn't they?
They almost won that.
Yeah.
The reason why they lost it is they went for a 2-point conversion.
Oh.
And they didn't convert. They went for the win. And that's kind of crazy.
I like that they did that.
But there's some good things that I see in him. Again, I'm not a scout, unless you want to hire me as one. And then I'll call myself a scout. But I will work my butt off. Anyhow.
All right, guys, here's Nate's number if you want to call him to offer him scouting. I'm just kidding.
No, of the freshman quarterbacks that got to play this year, he was one of the more impressive ones in college football. He's got poise. He throws a beautiful deep ball that's got enough. It's got oomph on it, but it's got enough of that arc so he could drop it.
Yeah.
He does have some weird tendencies. He's very much he's like a Baker Mayfield in this, is that his base has to be right. Like, he's got a really wide base, I guess.
Sure.
He's a thicker guy than Baker Mayfield, but he's not the tallest. He's only 6 foot.
Baker
6
Mayfield's
foot
not a tall guy either, though.
Baker's only 6 foot. So, but he's built completely different than Baker.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking about that greatest quarterback ever scouted.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and mention that one there.
Just noticing our buddy, our pal, our quote unquote friend over at EA, Andre Weingarten, aka Moonlight Swami, who in the past we had a lot of respect for, but he just keeps saying and doing things that we just can't get behind. And that was something he said recently. He's such a huge Mayfield fan.
He bought a jersey.
Jersey. Yeah. Great, fantastic.
Cool.
I love jerseys.
I love being a fan.
Yeah. But he went as far as to say the greatest quarterback that he will ever scout. So I guess he doesn't plan to scout anymore ever again.
Or he doesn't want to scout, the quarterbacks that are coming out this year, Trey Lance, who was on my radar before a lot of other people, because I lived pretty close to him in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But he was like a little baby, probably. It's like 10 years ago that I moved.
Sure.
Anyhow, and then you have Trevor Lawrence, obviously, and then Justin Fields. I've actually seen Justin Fields play whenever he was with Georgia.
Yeah.
Very minimally, obviously, but yeah.
Some really good quarterbacks out there that could be. And so I tend to think, I'm going to give him a little benefit of the doubt. I think he was trying to say something completely different than what he said. He's not. Quite frankly, a lot of the guys at EA are really bad at speaking their mind and publicly putting things out there that just doesn't resonate with everybody in the community, right? So I feel like he was probably going for something along the lines like he's trying to find that guy that
he believes in.
This was like a defining scouting moment for me, like scouting this guy. This is the one I'll never forget scouting, because it was just a different feel. There was just something special about it for me scouting that guy. Problem is, when you're 22, 23 years old, you shouldn't be looking to have had that moment yet. It's different if a guy who's been doing this for 15 years professionally says that was something special for me to scout. Not necessarily because he's the best player to ever play or the best player I've ever scouted, but it was a special moment scouting him. There was just something different about it, and I think Andre strikes me as the type of guy that he wants, is it legitimacy? Like, he wants to be looked at as a legitimate scout, as a legitimate guy who with experience and skill, and so he's saying and doing things that guys that have been doing this twice as long as he has, if not longer, are saying and doing, because he thinks that's how it works. And look, if it works for him, great. Look, he can have his opinion. He can have his opinion all he wants, as long as it doesn't mean that we're stuck with an X Factor Baker Mayfield for the next couple of years because he's convinced he's
he's definitely not an X Factor.
Yeah, he better not be in 21.
No.
But,
I could understand the superstar.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that because he does have a unique skill set, but they're going to ground and pound. Right. They have 3 tight ends now.
Yeah.
Like they're going to play so. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we got derailed there, I was talking about the Carolina Panthers, how they signed PJ Walker, but I was super excited, and I might be a Carolina fan now for this because they took another XFL player in the draft. They took our Kenny Robinson,
yes,
who played for the Battlehawks here in St. Louis.
I'm actually wearing a Battlehawks shirt, which breaks my freaking heart.
Yeah. And look, I know there's a lot of hubbub right now about them potentially coming back.
They're not.
We'll see. Look, I'll believe it when I see it. But I mean, they have talked to the officials here in St. Louis about renewing their lease. So there are things to look at, and I think in the next couple of days actually is when the bidding is for somebody to buy the XFL. So yeah, bittersweet there, but man, I'm so excited for Kenny. He's going to get to go play in Carolina. And I think they took him in the 6th round. Yeah,
they took him, and Carolina had an all-defensive draft.
Yeah.
They did not pick one offensive player at all. They addressed all those in the off-season free agency and whatnot. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, they had a decent draft.
I think where you take him, a lot of guys had him rated as a 3rd rounder or 4th rounder. So I think they got a really good steal in him.
He's a free safety.
Yeah.
He needs a little bit of that free roam.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
And he played really well. I think there was maybe 8 passes in his zone in St. Louis, and he had 2 interceptions.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy has talent, and you saw it at West Virginia. You saw it in St. Louis. So I'm just excited for him. I just really love that aspect of seeing him, and it does break my heart a little bit to see how this could have been the future. For the XFL, could have been a breeding ground for guys that maybe weren't getting opportunities in college for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Maybe some guys would start skipping college, like that NBA player, that kid that's skipping college to go play in the G League.
Yeah.
Right?
Or going overseas or,
Right. Doing something like that. This could have been something really good for them. But I'm excited to see Kenny play. Thought about ordering myself a jersey, being a fan, from Carolina. Get me a Kenny Robinson Jr. jersey, so...
I don't know what number he's going to wear there, though. Yeah, we'll find out.
We'll see. I mean, we'll find out.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to follow, as many of those guys that were in the XFL because it was a small sample size and it had some ups and downs, but there was some football like the cup thing, in DC.
Beer snake.
That was. Oh, sorry. I just.
Well, we're now going to explicit rating on this one.
I kind of censored myself there. Sorry for the F-bomb, but that was awesome. Like being at a Battlehawks game with Tim, like that crowd was nuts.
Yeah,
like it was awesome.
So fantastic. I got to go to both games they played in St. Louis. I'm really disappointed because the next game was going to be, they had sold over 40,000 tickets. And mind you, the top had been 23,000 at that point in the league, right? It was the most they'd had at a game was 23, and we were getting ready to double that here in St. Louis, because we love our football and we were excited.
Yeah. That was quite entertaining. But yeah. So that's we didn't really touch on every team or anything like that, but some things that are kind of good. Obviously, you got a little snippet of. I'm always looking quarterbacks, obviously, a little bit whenever I'm doing a franchise. So I mentioned several, obviously, that are coming out, that should be coming out this year as juniors. Sam Howell would follow them as a true junior, potentially. Like, right now, there's just not enough to know about the freshman quarterback or the ones that redshirted. Trey Lance is just so good, though.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so good. Watch some North Dakota State. Like, there's a reason why they win championships.
Sure.
And his evolution is really awesome. So, obviously, hopefully, I'll touch base. Especially if we have football this fall, I'll touch base on some other guys because there's some other positions too. I love linebackers, safeties, those kinds of guys. Yeah. I love defense. Those edges, guys that like they're not necessarily a true pass rusher, but they can pass rush. They can do, like I would say, Kaylavon Chason.
Yeah,
who was one of my favorite players in this last year's draft.
Speaks 3 languages. That was a great quote from this. I love that quote that he said, but
oh man, but no, he was like, speaking of drafts, I guess Jacksonville had a good one.
Yeah,
but
they did.
Anyhow,
he's been the star on my team all year long with Madden 20 because I drafted him in our league and re-signed him to Buku Bucks because he's
good.
I'm winning because of him.
He's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's. I think that's a good ending on that because we'll talk a lot more about the upcoming draft and whenever we're doing draft classes and stuff like that. Yeah. Like I'll definitely dive in maybe a little bit more than I did last year. I really took a back seat because I knew that I would be drafting players and stuff like that. That's something we have to discuss as a league, that kind of thing. But I'll definitely kind of talk some more about, hey, keep an eye on this. Hey, keep an eye on that. Maybe. Yeah. I think I need to do that a little bit more just as an individual.
Here's the thing. I think too. I don't see a problem with you helping and doing more with those as far as our league's concerned, because I feel like we've developed these draft classes that there are a number of options that you could pick to fit your system, and I feel like it's fairly apparent. We've done I think we've worked really hard at trying to make sure that the ratings, and their 40 times and all that kind of stuff is apparent when you're going into the draft that this guy fits a system or doesn't fit a system. And so like there are a lot of players that might end up rating out the same but end up playing differently in different systems. That was kind of what we were going for. So like even if you like, because when we did this, I had all those ratings. I even knew who was going to be different types of development traits because I was the one primarily doing all that work. The league trusted me with that, and it's worked out for me. But I certainly did.
Yeah. Tell us about that, Tim.
Right.
No,
well,
I'm just joking. No, it's not. No, I'm not talking Tim there at all.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's kind of funny. I mean, he does get in the second draft Trevor Lawrence at number 5.
Well, hey, I gave everybody an opportunity to draft him.
But I don't need a quarterback.
Right. Nobody needed him, and so I took him. And you know what? I could have used that opportunity to take somebody that I knew. But no, I went for a quarterback. I think I also got Tejada and and KJ Henry, who are no longer on my team because I can't afford to have all these guys on my team.
KJ Henry one hurt because
I got him right before you.
Yeah, that's actually the next guy. I was going to have my defensive end there.
Yeah. Sorry,
it took me like 4 more seasons to find a defensive end.
He's out there now if you want to go get him.
Oh, yeah, I saw. He's an X Factor, for the Giants now. But anyhow.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't afford him anymore. I had to let him go.
I think that's a good, speaking of kind of how we've been talking about draft classes or whatnot, honestly, we're going to maybe segue into EA, this has to tie in a little bit with our first topic of the day. EA canceling Madden 21 announcement. Obviously, a lot of things were canceled this week.
Yeah.
Rightfully, like I'm in support of that. Like if that company, if that's how they want to support that cool.
Yeah, good.
Good for them.
Yeah, good on them.
I don't think that they really had much to share anyhow, because anyhow, I'm not going to go there.
Right, well, and that's the thing. I know there's been a lot of pushback from some fans that, quote unquote, feel like they deserve an escape from what's going on in the world right now, and you know what? I'm not going to comment on different people's mindsets, but there have been some people saying, like, oh, well, they didn't have anything to show anyway, because it's going to Madden 21 is just a clone of 20.
I had a joke around about that, yeah. But it's not necessarily a clone, but they kind of fixed some stuff for me to be happy with it.
Well, yeah, and I think, here's the thing. I think if we've learned anything from following EA the last few years in Madden and Tiburon, is that whatever they were going to show, they were incredibly proud of and felt like they had done a lot of work around. And so, like, for them to take themselves off of that,
yeah, yeah, that's good. You know what, Tim? That's a very positive outlook there.
We've said that. Hey, we understand them being proud of the turds that they keep putting out, but at the same time, like, this was something they crafted. They spent a lot of time, and they said, we're not going to show this. Like, whether you agree with them or not, they're very confident that they're working as hard as they can and that they're doing the right things around game development.
Mm-hmm. And I hope they are, because that's all the football game that we have.
Additionally, like, we're talking about not just revealing a new game, we're talking about revealing a new game on a new console.
Yeah.
And a new console generation. So this was a big deal. And you better believe they were, gosh, I hope they were more prepared than they were last year. Because last year they did something similar. They had a big day on Twitch where they were streaming stuff, and I remember that stream was tough. It started out really bad. The quality of it was bad. Yeah. And it was like, you guys are video game
developers? Juju Smith-Schuster handing out all of his
codes,
game codes.
Right? Yeah.
And then he actually is like, oh crap, I didn't get one.
But I think when you take it all into consideration that they were willing to put this on hold, I say good on you, good on EA. Probably, not probably. I think this is the right decision.
Yeah.
To take this time off and say we're just gonna wait. And so my thought process on this now is that we'll see our first looks on June 11th for EA Play. EA Play is scheduled on June 11th. I doubt they'll be canceling that. It's a week away. And then when they get there, they'll have that. But I think what we'll see is that show was already planned, right? So they're not going to take everything they were going to talk about with Madden on the first and put that into their show, right? So I think what they're going to do is announce. They're going to show what they were planning to show at EA Play, and then they'll maybe take a minute to announce when they're going to make that up.
Yeah.
Right.
And they'll probably do some kind of Twitch stream or something like that. It's not going to be live. So the nice thing is that, not going to be like have a lot of people in there because of pandemic and all that kind of stuff. So they can easily do that. Our world has kind of been living digitalized anyhow.
Yeah.
So perfect moment. Take a step back. You know what? We'll show a little bit with, maybe PlayStation, or they're going to end up showing it with Microsoft because their partnership and everything like that.
Sure.
But, and then do your own Twitch stream.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. The nice thing is that I can go back and watch that because if I'm working or whatnot, I'm not going to be able to watch it anyhow.
Yeah.
So, I am anxious to kind of see it. Obviously some, kind of to segue or whatnot is some leaked features or whatnot.
Yeah. There has been some discussion. There has been some things that was online that not detailed, quotation marks here, that insinuated at what some of the selling points are going to be, kind of what their elevator speech is for Madden 21. For their stream that they were going to do that was going to go on YouTube, and it's a little description here, and it said this. Go all out in Madden NFL 21 with innovative gameplay mechanics that offer advanced levels of control and inspire creativity on both sides of the ball. Feel all-out control with the new skill stick ball carrier system. Dominate the edge with fresh pass rush moves. Experience more open field realism with tackle improvements. And have more fun with user-controlled celebrations. So that was the quote-unquote leaked details of the game. Additionally, it said you can pre-order now. Play 3 days early with the MVP edition beginning August 25th. So the idea there is then that the game would officially release on the 28th, but if you pre-order the MVP edition, you can start playing on the 25th. So yeah, so that's what everybody's going off for these quote unquote leaked features.
We've got to have some better controls,
right?
So that's the main thing that I see out of that. You know, like hopefully that means a little bit more on the defensive end with, you know, the pass rush moves, that kind of stuff. Like, because I don't want that 1 second delay before it even
right.
And I won the battle, but I'm still stuck in it for 2 seconds.
Right. Yeah, when you look at like how long it takes to pass rush, your players are going to break the line faster if you're not controlling them. That's why nobody uses defensive linemen. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to use a defensive lineman. Everybody lurks with a linebacker
or a safety.
Right, because
safeties are more popular now.
Right, because
linebackers don't jump.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
Some of them do, and make one-handed interceptions in Super Bowls. But
it's only on the edges, not through the middle.
True. Yeah.
So yeah.
But when you look at it though, like we've talked about it on our show, like pass rushing mechanics need to be improved in a way that makes it fun to play the pass rush as opposed to lurking with a linebacker. Because if you want to play that way, you should be able to play that way. Whether it's going to win you a Madden championship doesn't matter. It's if you enjoy playing that aspect of the game. You know, if you like the matchup of defensive line versus offensive line or linebacker coming on against the tackle, whatever it is, right? Something needs to change there.
And specifically, we're talking about like engaged blocks. Okay, so if you're coming free, like what you could do currently as a user, that's different.
Right.
But the engaged blocks and whatnot, like I don't even bother.
No, it's there's no point.
Like and this is several years worth of just pretty much using a linebacker. I have my favorites, of course. I tend to use the left side rather than the right side linebacker. But anyhow, everybody knows that. I'm not giving away anything. I use safeties occasionally now, though, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's just being able to actually do that move. Like, I watch my wife play, and she tends to use, like, her user as far as linebacker or safety, it's just not going to work for her play style, so she actually has to use a defensive lineman, and it's interesting to watch because I'm like, you're not going to do anything.
Right.
You know, and whenever she does, I was like, oh, okay. You know, like, or usually I get the, oh, did you see that? Meaning she won that engagement, and it just doesn't do anything different.
It gives you that green check mark. Hey, you won this battle. You clicked the right button at the right moment with the right timing.
Now do something.
Yeah, but you're still engaged with the player. And it's like, well, did I break the block or not? And the answer is not. You didn't actually break the block, even though
you won.
But you won the battle, and now the quarterback's going to throw it downfield because he had 8 seconds to pass it.
Even 4 seconds to pass it
is too long. Yeah.
You give me 4 seconds, I'm able to go to my third or fourth read typically.
Yeah. Right. So I think doing that, is a huge thing to change, give you more control over how you want to play on defense. Give you, and they talk about giving you control that inspires creativity on both sides of the ball, right? Hey, that would be awesome, like having some control that lets me get creative, as long as that doesn't mean that I'm lurking with my defensive tackle and getting interceptions 20 yards out, maybe on competitive mode people would like that, but from a sim standpoint, I would not.
I'm going to spy my tackle so that,
Yeah.
Anyhow, sorry.
Right.
That's how you defend the run is spies. But anyhow, in this year's version.
Which again makes no
Stupid.
sense that you would put somebody in a quarterback spy.
Let's spy my safeties so that they automatically react to it.
Right.
That is not fun.
No.
Anyhow.
Yeah, and I can't imagine investing, like, when we talk about, creativity on both sides of the ball. So we're talking about creativity on defense. Creativity on offense is desperately needed, I think, at this point, because there's some cool things that you can do in the game, right? I'll give you that. Like, I use the Saints playbook pretty much exclusively in our league.
I know.
and I've done that a couple times. I had Jalen Hurts on my team at one point.
Oh, I know. Taysom Hill package.
Yeah, run the Taysom Hill package, have him run that option, and then pass, and then maybe possibly do a pass or something. Like that's fun and that's cool, and that gave me some opportunity to try some different things.
Thank you, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, but like, if we're going to talk about being creative on offense, I want to know what your definition of innovation and creativity is, because you could argue that utilizing a left-handed punter while putting your offensive lineman at wide receiver and doing nothing but run plays for the entirety of a tournament is quote-unquote creative and innovative, while somebody else might look at that and say it's exploitive and not something to be proud of, right? So the question becomes, what do you see as innovative? What do you see as creative? Now, I know Clint Oldenburg on Twitter has acknowledged that that's a problem. He's acknowledged, like, hey, I get it, guys. I don't want to see that either, right?
At the same time, like, you don't want to see it. Well, you're the game creator. Do something about it.
Right, and so that's what he wants us to believe, is that he's trying to make that happen with the next version, right? I think, and that's the thing, is with these one-year titles, we can't expect them to fix everything in this title. Like, there's a lot of things that will, on these games, that we're gonna be stuck with until the next game comes out. Unfortunately, with Madden, there's a lot of things we have to be stuck with for 4 or 5 games.
Yeah. Like wheel routes, for instance, are still an issue. Like, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? You could just send the running back out, motion him out, and you had him already on a wheel route. Boom, he was able to exploit that zone every single time.
Yeah.
Well, instead, what you do is you just have these delayed fades for wide receivers that are basically wheel routes for wide receivers, and they beat man-to-man coverage every single time.
Yeah, man-to-man, if you run a switch play or a wheel play against man-to-man coverage, the way the defender, regardless of who the defender is. Now, granted, look, I've had it a couple times where I've run like a switch play against a high-rated corner with a lower-rated receiver, and it's interesting. What will happen is the receiver will actually flub his route, and he'll like stumble in his route, and then the corner will catch back up to him,
Yeah.
But there's always this kind of they're gonna beat him on their cut. They're gonna beat that corner on their cut, and as long as they just run the route straight, they're wide open. But then you'll see them flub as if like, oh, they take a step to the right, and now the corner is catching back up to them, even though they were supposed to be just running straight.
Or the corner will like magically move 5 yards, like do that really
Kinda
big,
warp.
like aggressive jump or something like that, and it's like,
yeah. So if there's a way for us to find creativity as opposed to exploitation in Madden 21, I'm all for it. I have to see what that is. What's going to be creative? When we start talking about creativity on offensive and defensive, are you talking about play creators? Are you talking about playbook creation?
that would be awesome. I've been dying for something like that to like, okay, well, I want to take this part of this playbook and I want to take this part of this playbook, but I can't even run a customized playbook in franchise.
No, you sure can't. And then that raises another question. So
I used to be able to.
can you in online mode? Can you in head-to-head, like, online? Because will these create, if these are those type of creative innovations that they're going to come out with, will it only impact online play or will it impact franchise mode?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You know, and it needs to impact everything. It needs to be the same game, regardless if you're playing online again in a competitive situation or if you're playing in a franchise by yourself situation. It should be the same game.
To a degree, or customizable. Like your league could customize it.
Right.
You know, so, we want to allow this. Oh, we want to allow that.
Sure.
But we don't want to allow this. You know, like a little bit more of that.
Yeah. So then some other things that we're seeing on here, talk about stick skill ball carrier system. So this could either be good or bad, you know, like
it could make what already is like with those superstar traits, like the cheap box and those kinds of things. Like those are, whew, like everybody's gone against somebody that you're like, okay, I had the guy like tackled behind the line twice, and then he got through 3 more guys.
Yeah.
For an 80-yard touchdown.
Right. And then that question is, how do those stick skills play into superstar and X Factor abilities?
Yeah.
Like,
I guess we'll see eventually.
Yeah. Will it complement each other or will it not? And I think that's the thing that a lot of us who followed Madden for a long time were skeptical at seeing this stuff work well, because how many innovative things have they done that didn't work well, that were abandoned the next year? And how many times have we heard that exact same shtick? Stick skill ball carrier system. Okay, Madden 13, Madden 25, anybody? Like, that was a selling point on those, right? So okay, are we redoing the entire stick system for running?
I think they need to redo the AI more than anything. Like, so right now as a ball carrier, you can actually, there's several things that you could do with the left stick. Okay. And I'm talking about like a PS4 platform.
Sure.
You could delay and it sucks in the defense a certain way. So then they can't do anything. And so like as a runner, and I've done this for years, I wiggle a lot. Now granted I've got like 5'8", 5'9" guys, you know, and they're kind of slippery, and so I have to wiggle through the line because I'll run a lot of inside zone. But that wiggle is just like with how the AI
responds to it, yeah.
It's affecting things that are 15 yards down the field.
Yeah,
like that's stupid.
Yeah, pursuit in Madden is bad. Pursuit in Madden is really, really bad, and I think it's just. This is one of those things. Will this improve, or will it make it, or will it just be another thing we look at and say, "Great idea, poor execution," and we'll have to wait to see, you know. And then we look at that video with the one video that they put out during the Xbox reveal with Pat Mahomes, and they have this little clip of Pat Mahomes running and reaching for the goal line. It's like, so maybe that's going to be a part of this as well. Is the ability to
rather than just that leap type thing, maybe have an individual animation, like that. Instead, that left stick can do.
I can't tell you how many times I've been tackled on the goal line where I thought my player would have made a better effort to score a touchdown, and they just don't.
Or like they catch the ball or whatnot, and instead they drift like this to have the ball like this. And it should be like in their chest.
Right, nobody can see you.
You can't see me here, but I'm doing like the motion.
Right, but they, like their body goes forward, but their hands go backwards to make sure the ball never crosses the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
or the plane of the end zone.
Tim said it better than me, but he's smarter and better looking.
You showed it really well. Just nobody can see how beautiful your movements were.
They were actually in slow motion, by the way.
Yeah. Now, something else that needs improvement that they're mentioning here: tackle improvements in the open field.
Oh yeah. So this goes back to very similar things, right?
This could impact. Okay, we talk about people juking you out of your shoes. Maybe this is kind of leveling that playing field with better tackling.
Or like currently, like what happens is you catch up, like you're side by side with the guy, and you're literally edging over, and he just doesn't do anything. It's like he's got this invisible force field around him. Your player doesn't do anything.
Yeah. I think one of the bigger issues too is because the game's so animation based, we see this a lot. Somebody's in a tackle animation and maybe they're breaking that tackle, and then two other players come over and they can't enter the animation. So what happens? They just fall over and now they can't make a play once the first animation plays out.
Or they hit each other.
Right, or they hit each other, they fall over, and then the guy runs off.
Yeah.
And that's a problem too. So there's a lot that needs to be improved from tackling. The question is, how will that look? Like, when they finally showcase this stuff, will they be talking about open field tackles, or will they be talking about gang tackling? You know,
I remember that being a feature, gang tackling.
Gang tackling used to be a feature, right? It's not anymore because, you know, Madden. Game developing is hard, yo.
It is.
It is. Yeah, look, it's there's a lot to be done there. But when we've talked about this more than enough times on here, we know everybody over there at Tiburon means well. You know, for the most part.
At least we hope.
Yeah, there's a couple times where
we're trying to be positive.
Yeah, there's a couple times where, like, the way they behave on Twitter, it's like, you guys don't get it, do you? But here's the thing. Regardless of whether or not they want to do the best job they can, are they accomplishing quality game development? And the answer right now should be no. I don't think anybody should look at this and look. There's been a lot of stuff about how they've had their highest engagement in years. They've had all this other stuff.
It's the only product.
Yeah, I actually asked somebody from EA who was talking about that, kind of like boasting about the fact that they had the highest engagement. It's like, hey, so I understand a lot of different metrics. How is engagement like rated? How do you guys decide engagement? Like what? And his response to me was actually to send me a link to the webpage. He was very polite. Don't get me wrong. I was very appreciative of him taking the time to even talk about it. And I approached him as respectfully as possible. But, you know, he said he couldn't actually answer that question publicly because it technically could have an impact on stock.
Yeah.
You know, so like 100%, okay, shut down that conversation. I'm with you.
Cool. I
don't want you to get in trouble over trying to explain it to me. But the problem is, here's the situation. You're boasting and your employees are boasting, your company is boasting about engagement, but you can't publicly tell me how that engagement is rated and ranked. Is it people doing their "Did you have fun?" survey after a game? You know,
I usually answer that negatively now because,
right,
like, I feel like that's the only way that they're going to hear me.
Absolutely. You know, so I think it's definitely not determined by Metacritic score. You know, like, so the question becomes, how do you do that? And I looked through the information that he linked me to, and honestly, I still couldn't find an answer. And that's fine. Like, I appreciate him taking the time to even point me in any direction, and I thanked him for his time. And I certainly didn't want him to be involved in a conversation that could get him in legal or job trouble, right? So that's the other thing. But at the end of the day, like, this game company, this studio, Tiburon, thinks that they are doing a good job.
Yeah. At least that is, especially from a social media standpoint, that is all of that they portray.
Right. And they do say that they're continually trying to make improvements. And I everybody's going to say that, though.
Yeah. And you want to, again, and this is me being positive or whatnot, or trying to, like, play that side, or that positive intent is I think they want to actually make a really good football product.
For sure.
Right? There's so many things that go into it.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm upset about is like certain aspects of the product that they are producing, and then them just being like, oh, well, get better. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna go out with my punter.
Right.
You know, like, we've seen the answer to that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, well, it shouldn't be like it. Well,
then fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm sure they're trying to. And again, like, we're not trying to bash the devs, but I have no confidence that EA Tiburon as a studio can put out the game that we want.
Yeah.
I believe that the studio that's putting out NHL, the studio that's putting out FIFA, you know, let's go outside EA's umbrella. Let's talk about MLB The Show. Look, these games have problems. NBA 2K. These games have their own issues that they have to address. but they're light years ahead when it comes to options, especially from a franchise standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's available to you as a player. It's like, okay, look, NBA 2K has some gameplay issues. Yes, it does. Absolutely, it does have some gameplay issues. Not going to debate that. That's the way it is. But in NBA 2K, I can go in and have a slider set for why teams won't accept trades.
Yeah.
I have a fully fleshed staff that have abilities and rankings and qualities, and I have to manage them. Okay, I have to manage relationships with them. Okay, that's in the game, and you know what? It plays out pretty well. You know, I didn't like what they did with their latest NBA 2K with like they have different ways you can my GM mode.
Yeah,
I didn't like the point system they put in, but I could go play my league and play it the way they did in the previous gen, right? So it didn't matter because I had options. I have a number of different ways that I can approach my league and do this the way I want to do this.
You have different ways that you could play that product.
Right. I can go play NHL 20 and get a coaching carousel and have a legitimate Fog of War scouting system.
Let's go Blues.
Right, let's go Blues. Play Gloria. You know? So, like, that's there. These other studios have figured it out. These other studios have it.
FIFA, really. FIFA's had a great product for years.
Right.
And yes, again, there's certain aspects or whatnot, but, I mean, FIFA's on a different level because it's a worldwide product.
Sure thing, yeah. And that's the thing. There's always going to be something that these games can improve. But when I look at it, here's the thing. These games are trying to improve gameplay. Like on the field, on the court, on the ice gameplay. On the backside of that, they have so many more options to keep it fun when gameplay isn't good. Now I go over and I play Madden, and you know what? Gameplay isn't great. It's barely good, if even good.
I get to look forward to the draft.
Right. And then,
which I enjoy.
You know what? And that's the thing. Our favorite parts of the game still suck. The draft is not good. Draft classes and scouting are not good. The most fun that we had with draft was doing our draft classes.
And the participation that we have of our league members.
Right.
Like, that is... So right now, and Tim can attest to this because I've had many text comments and everything like that. The only reason why I am still playing in our league is because of the people around me.
Yeah.
I have been so frustrated because, you know, like, okay, well, penalty for no reason, or okay, well, that AI decided to do this on that, and I drops a pass, even though the guy's like free by 10 yards.
Right.
And he's a X Factor player.
Right. X Factor quarterback with a superstar ability of accurate out of the pocket passing, out of the pocket.
10 yards beyond the player.
Right. Intercepted.
A 99 rated player, by the way.
Yeah. And look, and it's the thing is, these games aren't perfect, but they have to offer something. And what we get in depth often, and I've said it on our show before, I can overlook certain issues if there's something else there for me to focus on. Mm-hmm. With Madden, there's the only thing for me to focus on this entire year has been developing draft classes.
Yeah.
And I've played more leagues in this Madden than I have in previous Maddens, but I find I'm only playing them for 2 years because that's how long it takes for me to get through my draft classes. Yeah. Because that part was fun, but now going out and playing the game isn't as much fun.
Yeah. I mean, there's moments where, oh man, I got to play my game.
Right.
And, you know, just to try to keep the league going or whatnot. Oh man, I gotta play my game. I don't want to have to play X team, you know, like again, or you know, like the main thing that I've had issues with is I play the same 2 users every single year.
Yeah.
Like the same 2 league members every single year, and then I have to play them in the playoffs because, well, they're also in my conference, so that kind of gets old.
Well, you know, one of those guys, I have to play him every year and play him in the playoffs and in the preseason.
Yeah,
every
yeah.
year because the preseason schedule doesn't change.
And you guys have simulated some of the, because it's the first preseason game of the year.
Yeah, and we often simulate it. And here's the thing too: is we look at that, and it's not that it can't. It doesn't even randomize it. They've preset what that second year preseason is going to be, which is then going to be for every year franchise after that. And they allowed it to be things like, I'm the Lions. I have to play Green Bay and Chicago in the preseason. I played them 3 times a year now.
That makes tons of sense.
It makes no sense, Nate. I know you're being sarcastic.
Tons of blue fight.
Right. But on a positive note, Madden 21 is going to put an emphasis on user-controlled celebration. So at least there's that. And
Crickets.
Here's the thing.
No, that would be fun a little bit, especially on defense. Like being able to
raise the roof.
You got to make sure that it's only 2 thrusts, not 3, because Key and Peele, you'll get flagged for that.
Right, you don't want to get flagged for the multiple thrusts. Look, here's the thing. User-controlled celebrations, hey, that's cool. Look, I'm glad it's there. Don't mark that as a selling point for me.
Yeah.
Put it in the game, sure, but if that is what you have listed as something for us to look forward to, then count me out. I don't want that.
That affects the gameplay only if you're actually doing that action.
Right. And you notice nothing that was listed here says anything about depth and franchise.
Oh, that's because it's not a franchise first.
Yeah,
it's
no
not.
longer is.
It's not. And you go out and you look at the community. The community has said the same things, especially this year. And I get it. People want to play MUT, or
go ahead.
Other ones.
Enjoy it.
Go ahead. Enjoy the game that you want to play. But the problem is that you got to make that other product just as enjoyable, or at least somewhat more depth.
Right. But you know who's enjoying MUT? The professionals who are making money off of it.
Yeah.
Who don't have to necessarily buy their packs because they have sponsorships, and then other people who are spending money on MUT to try to be like them. It's like you're not making the game better by investing in MUT.
You're making money.
Right. Which
the game itself,
yeah.
The game itself makes money. They don't even need MUT to make money.
Right, but you look at how much they make because of MUT. They released some numbers on this. This game
stupid.
makes billions.
Oh yeah, it can. EA, it's a cash cow.
Right, but but we only have enough resources to make sure that we can get in checks, notes. Oh yeah, user-controlled celebrations. That's what our focus is going to be with the billions of dollars and the resources that we have. And we're going to tell you that we just didn't have enough to really make this work. And I think that's why I get so frustrated with Madden. I feel like everything's an excuse as to why it's not the best sports game around. Football is the most popular sport in America.
Yeah. Sorry, baseball. It actually is.
Yeah. It's incredibly important here. You're making billions of dollars off this title. The idea that you would not have enough resources to make a game that's as good or as deep as a game like NBA 2K, again, okay, NHL 20. I love me some hockey, but it's not as popular as these other sports.
But it's more in depth.
There's more for me to do. I'd much rather play franchise there than I would in over on Madden, right? So I think that's what gets me going on some of this stuff is we still aren't seeing any information about improvements to Madden, a franchise mode. And I'll be surprised if we see anything about it. I'll be surprised if there's any new features other than them saying we continue to tweak the scenario engine.
At least make the scouting used to be this much more in-depth thing whenever we started our league, right?
Yeah.
And you had 7 to 10 slots or something like that. You got 3 now to scout.
Right. Well, you could scout almost every rating.
Yeah. You had deep route running, all that kind of, you had those individually. And then eventually you could actually see their rating on speed, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I get it. I don't necessarily want to see the rating. I just want more. like more depth.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, depth.
I'm trying to figure out, okay, is this guy an edge player that can also play a little bit of coverage?
Yeah.
Right? Well, in this, is he a left end, right end, or outside linebacker?
Yeah. But, like, if I go play NHL right now, NHL 20, I can go scout, and I could over-scout a guy until I've revealed pretty much everything about him. It still won't give me his overall ratings.
Exactly.
It's only giving me that there's a high probability that he's going to be an A, a B, or a C in any of these categories, right? And then I have to go use him in the preseason, and then I get an idea of what he actually is after he's played a couple games. Like,
and NBA has the you could do the whole scouting the world versus so that is every year that you have, and you're like, oh, so I'm going to play this game. Oh, okay, this player is actually pretty good. I should probably put him on my scouting. I should probably scout him,
right?
Even if he's going to be overseas for 3 seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, there's a better way to do it than what they're doing it. And I just don't think we're going to see any improvements to franchise mode this year.
No,
I think if we were, I think it would have been listed here if we were going to see it.
And man, damn it!
I know that's frustrating. Here's the thing: prove me wrong, EA. Please prove me wrong.
Please, yeah. We are begging you. Like, so we want to be positive.
Yeah.
We want to have reason. Give us reason. That's it.
Exactly. Give us a reason to enjoy your game.
Yeah. And yeah. I don't want to have to quit my league.
I don't want you to quit our league. If you quit playing the game, how are we going to do this podcast?
oh, yeah. I mean, no, seriously, that's actually one of the things that goes through my head. Because it's been very close to that this year. So, yeah.
But that's where we are. Game is going to come out the 28th. So it says. Early access on the 25th if you pre-order MVP edition.
Which I don't know if I will. I did last year. I did do that.
I think I did. I did it through EA Access and did it.
You did it through EA Access. I actually got the full,
okay.
Like the Pat Mahomes extra awesome edition because everybody knows how much I loved Pat Mahomes whenever he was at Texas Tech. So
yeah.
Right,
and I couldn't justify spending extra money for the game to get more MUT junk.
And I didn't use any of it. I just wanted to. Yeah.
So when I found out that I could sign up for EA Access and get a percentage off the game, like 10% off the game, and
you get 5 to 10 hours.
I got 10 hours of gameplay for like a week leading up to it, something like that.
It's good.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, but this is. I think I'm afraid that when it comes to franchise mode, that this is the Madden that we have for the next couple of years. And the other issue with that is EA and the NFL have announced that they have continued their exclusivity for simulation football games. So other companies can make arcade games and things. And I put some stuff on Twitter about this. This really frustrated me. So what a lot of people are reporting is that EA really impressed in their presentation. Like the NFL saw presentations from multiple studios, right, for what they wanted to do. But they were super impressed with EA, and the words that kept coming up was with their emphasis on innovation, which, if you remember, innovation was a key word in their descriptor for Madden 21. They were talking about innovative gameplay, right? So they talked about innovation. And then if you go and you read what people said, so I pulled this out of an IGN article. This is what IGN said. According to a press release, the multi-year renewal of the partnership means more football simulation games from EA, as well as, and in quotes from the press release, additional innovative ways to play through new genres, expanded esports programs, arcade style and enhanced mobile experiences, and more across platforms. So here's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get exclusivity for an NFL license for simulation football. And the reason you're going to get the license for simulation football is that you have innovative ways to play through new genres, esports, arcade style, mobile experiences.
None of them have to do with simulation.
Not a single one. My question for the NFL is, I get that you liked what EA had to offer.
And it's probably a lucrative deal for...
Oh, yeah.
And money always comes into it.
Sure.
But yeah.
But you know what? Why does it have to be exclusive? Because they're paying you for that license, right? You could have made more money by licensing it to more companies.
Yeah, for simulation purposes. Yes.
Right. For you know what? And that's where it comes down to is what we're seeing right now is an emphasis on, okay, Madden's putting an emphasis on gameplay, which they do every year, which they should because gameplay sucks. I get it. But it seems like the innovations that they put in, the things that they do, does not ever improve gameplay. You know, I think the jury's out on Superstars and X Factors if it was good or bad.
I like Superstars better than X Factors, which is bad. Like,
and I almost like X Factors better than Superstars, to be frank. Because I feel like X Factors. Well, I think most of the X Factor skills are useless, but the way that they work is that it requires you to get on a roll through skill first, right?
Yeah.
And then suddenly now you have this ability to kick in. Okay, Pat Mahomes doesn't have to do anything before he can suddenly throw in a cross-body pass out of the pocket at 99% accuracy.
Okay, there is that. But he could do that in real life. So I understand, like, to me, like, I guess the cross of that is like, those bring out some real life elements.
He can do that in real life. Does he need to do that from a superstar standpoint, or should it be and is related? It related to his existing ratings.
And they can't add in that, like, I guess the only way to do that is like, I guess the argument on that would be is the only way to have that trait in there so that the animation does it is Superstar.
Sure. And so I'm right there with you. I get it. He can do that in real life. Superstar abilities have been more important than X Factor abilities in this game.
Oh, yeah. And that's, I guess, what I'm saying is I would rather have a team full of superstars, which I don't want to have, ironically. Like, I hate having to do that, but offensive line, you have to do.
It's crazy,
Like, I hate to have as many superstar players as I do, but the reason being is that the game is broken, so I have to do that just to get some of that actual real element out of it.
So then let's break this down a little bit further, right? We've already kind of mentioned this. One of the big complaints that are excuses, I should say, that EA gives us and Tiburon gives us is they don't have enough resources.
It's Tiburon specifically.
We don't have enough resources to add everything into the game that we want to add from a gameplay and franchise standpoint. Okay. However, what we're looking at doing for the next 6 years is adding new genres, expanding esports, and looking at arcade style and mobile platforms, right? How many resources are you going to lose that you currently have if you don't have enough to make the game as good as other games? And now you're going to lose those for new genres, for arcade, for all these other things. The only way the NFL sticks with EA after these next 6 years is if they keep just making money hand over fist. Chances are they will, but it won't be based off the quality of the products that they put out.
No, it's because of the exclusivity. That's really it.
Yeah.
And the whole 2K kind of coming to it or whatnot. I hope, like, I would love, and this is kind of weird to think of, and I've talked with my wife about this, who's in our league, and I've said, you know what? If it was an alternative that had a better franchise mode, I would play an NFL Blitz, which is completely different than a simulation, but if it had the right franchise stuff, yeah.
That would be difficult for me, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, like, meaning that's how upset that I am with the gameplay, because that is completely arcade style.
Yeah, I am not into arcade style.
Not that I want that to happen. I loved NFL Blitz for what it was. It was an arcade style game.
Right.
But I want the simulation portion, like, because all I have to look forward in this version is the draft, because I suck in every other aspect because I didn't want to do a run game and half the time it's lagging enough that you can't do a timed passing offense. So
Yeah.
there we are.
Yeah. It's a difficult Madden's in a difficult place. And just everything I'm seeing here when we talk about what features they're talking about for Madden 21 that we know of and what they pitched, the ideas that we're hearing from what they pitched, none of that seems to impact simulation football, having something that simulates week in and week out what the NFL is doing and how the NFL works. And granted, though, the NFL NFL owners don't seem to really understand what's happening week in and week out, though. I mean, talk about another inept organization. You know, like, they thought LA would be lucrative for two teams.
It's not even lucrative for one.
Right. And because it had nothing to do with fan bases. It had everything to do with how much money they put in their pocket. The NFL is led by money. Guess what? EA's the same way. As long as they're making money off Madden, they don't care if the game's better than it is.
And then what you have is you have the struggle between, like in this case, Tiburon and EA high ups. Well, who's going to win out? Well, EA makes the choices for the studios for the most part, right?
Allocates the resources.
The studio gets to pitch ideas to them, but it's still up to EA ultimately.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Is like when we criticize the developers at Tiburon, I think it's fair to criticize their skill for what they've been able to accomplish with what they have. But I think when we talk about having the right resources, giving a direction to the game, all of those types of things, the criticism lies on EA as a producer for how much of that money they're funneling back into the game. And, that's a problem. And I've seen some of the devs even hint at that. But at the same time, it's clear to me that Clint doesn't have the same feelings I have. Even though he says he does, he doesn't seem to care about the same things I care about. Is it Michael Young? I like Michael Young a lot. He says he cares about things like franchise mode.
And I think a lot of them do. That's what's
right.
That's what's weird. In deep down, I think they do. But then there's that conflict of, well, I got to do this, or I'm being directed in this.
Or what I want to do can't be built on the game the way it is, and the only way to improve the game would be to scrap the old code and start fresh, and that means EA has to fund that.
And EA, if they propose that, and then EA's like, no,
too much money.
Yeah. So, we're just... It's a vicious cycle.
Right. And that's the thing. Is there's not a singular person at fault or a singular group at fault, but it's a partnership between EA and Tiburon. But at the same time, again, we look at some of these other EA studios, right? The guys that are putting out FIFA, the guys that are putting out NHL, they had to transfer from Ignite to Frostbite, just like Madden did. They have years of code that they're working with, just like Madden does. Why are they capable of doing this, but Tiburon is not? And you can't say that that NHL is accomplishing more because it has more resources, because it doesn't.
Especially from a money standpoint, it does not.
Right. So I think those are my concerns with how
we're trying to receive these changes,
right?
But all that it brings up is
concern,
more concern and question marks because of the previous product or the current product, or and and whatnot.
And I got to see it in action too. And more than in action, I got to have it in my hands for a month before I'm going to be able to. Because we look back at last year and we said, oh, okay, the what was it called? This scenario engine.
Yeah.
You know, that's man. In theory, it was great. I love the idea. I think that it needs to continue to build upon it. I hope they don't scrap it. But is it what they promised? Is it as good as it needs to be? No, it's not. It's not creating the narrative that it needs to create. Instead, it's creating monotony.
It's like dev trait oriented and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, this guy's been doing this for how many weeks and still no scenario, or, you know, like,
right?
It's just randomized.
But then on the other side of that, it's like, man, you can't have that every week because how many before you know it, your league is full of X Factors and superstars.
Yeah, but I could complain about certain things. We've already done that for, you know, a majority.
Several years.
I'm speaking
Today.
Yeah, to this version today.
Right.
That kind of thing. But, yeah, I just, I always hope, but it's been maybe 3-4 years since I really had some enjoyment out of it. At the same time, like, I mean, the last 2 years, I thought that this year, like, because of, like, my first initial impressions, I was like, oh, hey, great, I've got some challenges here or whatnot. Well, you figure out those challenges, and then you figure out how flawed it is, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's a run game.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, which is why I'm glad they're adding more to the run game next year with this new stick control. But, you know, again, we'll have to see how it all plays out. I just don't have
Blue font.
Yeah, just don't have a lot of confidence that it's going to play out the way we want, you know. But this year is an opportunity to make or break, I think, to take us a new direction or to tell us that we're going to do more of the same for this next generation of console.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing, you know, like how this next generation. We've seen some shifts before because we started our league on PS3.
Yeah.
You know, and then we had it shift, and I wouldn't necessarily deem that shift any better. It changed quite a bit graphically, like,
sure.
And some of the gameplay elements have changed as a result of that. But is it any better? I just don't know yet. So,
Don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we got on a rant there. I don't think that we wanted to necessarily do that. Although we did.
Well, we have what we have to talk about, and all we can really comment without having seen anything, and all we can really do is say what our expectations are, and they're just not high. We don't have high expectations.
Yeah, I'm ready to be disappointed. I would be happy to not be disappointed.
Yeah.
And I'm just ready because it's year after year after year of same narrative, but something in just slightly tweaked, that kind of thing. But franchise hasn't changed.
It's the same
thing. I got a draft board. Great.
Yeah.
I got scenario engine.
Yeah, you have a draft board that consistently has a message popped up on it that says hold X to rearrange. You know, because the game is so buggy. On a draft class that says that 4 different players are all supposed to go 18th overall in the first round. Like, right. It's just the way the game just is so buggy. Everything I enjoy about the game, I don't enjoy. There's a massive issue with every aspect of it. And we've already talked about it before in other episodes and things, but like just every little bit of it, the game, it's like they don't even proofread it. They don't even proofread the text that's in the game. how many years did it take for them to get like the announcements right for and the field logos right for the not expansions because they don't do expansion, but
they were still, the logos were wrong this year at the beginning.
Right. They keep messing the stuff up, like these little details, and it's this AAA billion-dollar title, and now I'm supposed to trust that they're going to have innovative new gameplay on Madden 21, and I just don't believe it. I'd like to believe it. I'd like to see it. I'd like to feel it.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that was the tagline, right? Is like you're going to be able to sense and feel more in the game. Possibly because of the new technology, you know. Yeah. But whatever. Madden 21, Lamar Jackson on the cover.
Worst kept secret ever.
Right. Come out late August. There you have it.
You're $60 to $100, mm-hmm. And then if you play more. Yeah.
And all of those rookies that we just talked about that we're excited to see in that game too, being rated at a 58 overall.
Oh, like you know, Jared Stidham.
So,
yeah. We didn't talk about that, but we had some side stuff on that. That was fun.
Right.
Well, it'll be interesting to see ratings this year.
Yeah, I did put that stuff out about Stidham on the Twitter a little while back. So if you want, go check us out at the NanoBlitz.
Nanoblitz.com.
Because I think what happens with Stidham and what New England does at quarterback this year is going to be really impactful as far as revealing how they rate players on Madden. Yeah. If they're rating them based off of their skill or off of where they think they should be based off of their depth projection.
So where do you think... Okay. So devil's advocate here. What's his overall rating? Jared Stidham. Madden 21.
Madden 21, I'm going to go with a 65 because I know that Andre, who's on that, he's one of the two guys who's...
He likes Stidham, though.
Matters. He doesn't like him that much.
He likes him more than Daniel Jones.
Well, yeah.
That doesn't say much.
Right, but he hates the Giants. So, and the guy that he's partnered with is anti-Giants. Look, here's the thing. Stidham, he's had... I've watched him have to convince himself on Twitter that Stidham is an option at quarterback.
So, okay. So I could actually say this. Tim has actually seen Jared Stidham play live. It's been several years.
Yeah.
I took him to the Auburn game. What did you think?
I really couldn't comment.
Deep ball, but rainbow. Deep ball, but rainbow.
Right. Here's the thing.
And he's actually pretty accurate.
Regardless of how good he is or he isn't, he's better than a 58 overall. Is I think my issue.
Yeah.
And
a 58 overall doesn't.
Right.
Like, you can't do anything with that.
So I think they're going to put him as a 65 overall because they need him to be good enough to start. I've seen 68 overall quarterbacks simulate 38 touchdowns to 5 interceptions on 4,000 yards passing in the game. I've seen it happen, right? So it's an option at starter, but the AI is going to replace him immediately. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Hoyer is rated higher than him, so that even if New England starts Stidham, they end up having Hoyer as the starter in New England on Madden because he's just rated higher, and the AI doesn't know how to handle that.
I think they're going to have him a little higher than that, so I think they're going to bump him up to like a 69 to 71. And unrightfully so.
Right. What has he done to prove it?
Exactly.
What will he have done?
That's what I'm saying. You know, like, and that's a whole nother topic. Like, I can't wait until we actually see the ratings and stuff like that on this, because, oh man, this is a topic that I really.
We're passionate about it. Yeah, it's a big deal, and I think we've expressed more than once that we don't like the system they have in place for how they do ratings, how they explain ratings, and who they even have doing the ratings. We've been down that road.
Even though they redid that all this year, like, I think it in some ways made it worse.
Yeah, well, we like the idea of a rating spread.
Yeah.
At the same time, I personally am of the opinion of a rating spread that doesn't bottom out so far down.
I'm okay with it bottoming out, but he's a starter for a reason. He was drafted for a reason. You know, like, you don't have that other element in there of like what we were saying is you don't have that element of, what is the front office mindset? What is the coaching staff mindset? What all these different things that you can do, like NBA 2K, well, it has a potential rating in there.
Yeah.
Right? Like that player is valued because of their potential, even though they're a lower rate.
Yeah. All right. Well,
sorry, we're done.
All right. Let's leave on this one. I got one question for you. Going back to our first topic of the draft, the NFL Draft 2020.
Okay.
And then tying in the blatant disrespect that the EA developers gave to Daniel Jones. Okay. Let's tie those two things together.
Okay.
In your opinion, what was the better pick? New York Giants taking Daniel Jones at 6, or the Green Bay Packers trading up to take Jordan Love in the 20s somewhere? What was the better pick? Who made the better call?
So there's a different way to look at this. Okay. The value factor. So value factor, if you're going on just a pure value, and I'm prefacing this because I've got different outlooks. The value is better with Jordan Love there, okay? Because it's later in the first round, you're paying less, your investment is less if you mess that up, okay?
Oh, you did lose draft pick over it, but
you're always going to lose a draft pick,
okay?
And that's kind of my mindset on that is you're going to lose your first round draft pick, and I guess they gave up, I think it was a 4th rounder, something pretty small, that kind of thing. So, or was it a 4th and a 4th? Or it was something like that. 4th rounder is still valuable. Don't get me wrong, but you moved up. What was it? 7 spots from 29 to 22. I may be wrong on those numbers. It's somewhere around that. You get your quarterback of the future in Jordan Love, right? Just looking at that aspect, without the player or anything like that, the value is obviously with that over the 6th overall pick, because you spend that top 10 pick, they better they sure as hell better be a top 6 pick, right?
Sure.
Like, I mean, that they're, and you didn't move back.
No.
So the value, from a value standpoint, the Jordan Love one beats out
and Love was taken at 26.
Okay, so they moved up from what, 29, 30
I remember
to 26.
They didn't move up very many spots. I think that was one of the issues with the trade.
There was some movement in there that was a little thrown off, so I'm sorry. No, it was the Dolphins that moved back. That's it. Okay. Sorry, I was confusing one of the Dolphins picks from, what was it, 24 to 30 that they moved back and picked up the corner. From a value standpoint, I would side with the Packers on that. The rest of their draft was so it's kind of like, well, it's boom or bust, that kind of thing. From the Giants' standpoint, they had zeroed in on their guy. Both of them had zeroed in on their guy.
Sure.
So I don't fault them for that. You pick your guy wherever you pick your guy. Granted, if you can, you move back a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
Like Dak Prescott, lasts so long in the draft, even though everybody knew the Cowboys wanted him.
Yeah.
Everybody knew that. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that, right? They still got a heck of a value at where they picked him.
Sure.
That kind of thing. So there's the value standpoint, and then there's the player standpoint. Right now, Daniel Jones is the better player of the two. Okay?
Okay.
In the right system, and they're very different players. Like, Love has a very live arm and whatnot, but Love is also a guy who can't go through more than 2 reads right now.
Sure.
He, the systems that he's in and whatnot. So, whereas Daniel Jones can at least make it to that 3rd read. He's got a lot of improvement in the ball protection aspect. But you know what? He's not necessarily a live arm, but he's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I would say Love is somewhat accurate, but there's more inconsistency than I see because of fundamentals.
Okay.
So I would actually, ironically, I would think I would side on, to answer your question, I'd say Packers over the Giants because of the sheer value there.
Okay.
But that's only because of where they were selected and the player that they currently are. There's a very small sample size there.
Sure.
Now, 5 years down the road, I don't know if either of them are going to work out.
Okay. That's a fair analysis.
I would say Daniel Jones probably has the better chance to actually to be the long-term starter because of where they drafted him. Whereas the Jordan Love thing, he has to sit for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Before he even sniffs the field. And then what if?
So, okay. Great answer. Last aspect of that. Knowing that the guys over at Madden don't like Daniel Jones.
Oh, they love Jordan Love.
But they love Jordan Love.
Love Jordan Love.
Who has the higher rating in Madden 21?
Jordan Love.
You think Jordan Love will be rated
Jordan
higher?
Love. Yeah, I mean, I don't even hesitate on that one if he does. So, Andre loves his... He says that he's really accurate, like Love, talking about Jordan Love there.
Sure.
I watch the same game stuff. I'm not a scout. I don't claim to be a scout like somebody else. I watch the same film, and I don't see the same thing, right?
Sure.
I understand it. Jordan Love was overmatched against LSU.
Sure.
LSU's really good. Really good. Like, LSU defense is like an NFL defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I mean, they consistently every year, it's just plug and play. But I didn't think that, and obviously the level, Jordan Love just didn't look the same there. And I watched some other games of Jordan Love, and I'm like, I see some of the stuff there, you know, like very much like I would put him, if I didn't know any better, I would have put him in that Josh Allen or that Drew Lock category.
Okay.
Drew Lock, I'm going to rate higher. I'm a little bit more of a homer on that, but I have more insight on him.
Sure.
Like, I have insight to his high school, you know, competition and reading and stuff like that, whereas I don't have that with Jordan Love. I don't have that if I was the scout.
Sure.
I don't have that insight. And I think I know more of what Drew Lock, what makes him tick, than I do Jordan Love.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that kind of thing. I mean, it's just...
Well,
I'm a lot closer to one individual than the other. It's
sure.
like the degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Well, I am looking forward to when we get to sit down and record again and talk about comparing these quarterbacks and what they're rated in Madden 21.
I think we just do a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, with what we had to experience this past year, that would be a whole episode.
Yeah. Wow. All right. This has been a long episode.
Yes.
So thank you for listening. If you're still listening, if you even started listening, thank you so much. We're going to sign off, and hopefully we'll have another episode out later, but not until we have more information. We need more before we have anything to do a show on.
Yeah, because we ended up talking a lot about Madden 20 because we don't know enough about Madden 21.
Right.
So we want more to talk about.
Yes. Great. So I think the only thing left to do is say the.
Well, Chad did play his game.
He did play his game. I have to play my game.
Yes, play your game, Chad. Tim.
Yeah, Tim.
I have to say, Chad.
I gotta play my game so that Chad can play his game.